All right, so Joe Biden's approval rating has taken an absolute nosedive in recent history, and there's been a lot of debate concerning exactly what might be the primary causes of this. Now, if you go and listen to MSNBC or CNN, they will most likely tell you that it is because he has been cozying up too much to these scary socialists like Bernie Sanders or AOC or other members of the squad, and that it is because he has moved too far to the left, that he has somehow scared off these enlightened centrist voters who would have otherwise been very supportive of him. Now, this is completely detached from reality, and I actually have some data here for you guys to back up that it is completely delusional. But of course, they are using all of these narratives that they are trying to force down our throats to basically justify Biden moving even further to the right, even though, again, that is the exact opposite of what he should be doing right now. So here you see from The Economist, young Americans are souring on Joe Biden. Without the threat of Donald Trump, the president's policies are coming under increasing scrutiny, not aging well. So this is basically just data that was compiled by YouGov and The Economist in partnership, and they were basically studying the entirety of Joe Biden's first year. Okay, so this was data collected from January 26th to December 13th. So again, basically the entirety of this first year of the Joe Biden administration. And they do this thing where I haven't seen this specific type of breakdown among other polling data sites, but they did this by age bracket. Okay, so you see here there are 4 different colors. The youngest color is this one in blue here, and that is under 30-year-olds. Then you got 30 to 34 and 45 to 64, and then 65 plus. Now you'll see here that basically everybody above the age of 45, okay, so 45 plus, they have been relatively consistent in terms of their approval and disapproval of Joe Biden. It has trended slightly downwards, but you see here nothing too crazy in the margins. You start around here, at least for the 45 to 64 range, you start at roughly like, +4, +10 maybe, and then you go all the way down to maybe like -4, -10. So basically he's taking a small hit there, but you see where the primary amount of the hit is actually coming on his approval rating. It's mostly from under 34 and 30 to 44. So you see here, both of those age groups, way back at the start of the Joe Biden administration, they were obviously pretty optimistic at the start, right? You see here, they were +20 on Joe Biden, okay? Over +20, maybe even closer to like +25 or +30 in their approval of Joe Biden. Then you see here, where we're at right now, they have completely overtaken where the 65 and the 45 to 64 range were previously, okay? It has taken an absolutely massive nosedive. This is where the primary amount of his disapproval or his loss of approval has been coming from, okay? So they went from +20 to -20. So we're talking about, for under 30-year-olds, we're talking about a more than a negative 40% change or 40-point swing against Joe Biden. For the 30 to 44 range, we are talking about a -40 change for Joe Biden. So collectively, basically everybody under the age of 45 is pissed at Joe Biden and doesn't like how he is governing. And I wonder why that may be. Well, I just did some digging, and basically, if you guys remember way back in the 2020 election back in November, the top issues for young voters in that election were 2 main things. Number 1, healthcare. Number 2, student loans. And we're going to talk about both of these in this, but it's not really surprising, or shouldn't be surprising if you've been paying attention to the Joe Biden administration. He has basically completely walked back or watered down every major promise that got young people to suck it up and go and vote for him. Okay, so let's just start off here with student loans. Okay, one of the top issues for young voters. Okay, you see here, White House punts Biden's promise to cancel $10,000 in student debt to Congress. They haven't sent him a bill on that yet. So basically, Jen Psaki, his spokesperson, was out there and she was asked a question about, hey, Biden promised to eliminate $10,000 in student debt for every American. Why has he not done that? Okay, he has the power to do that through his executive powers. And she responded by saying they haven't sent him a bill on that yet. So again, they're just making this shit up, okay? He doesn't need Congress to cancel student debt. If you follow my channel, you would know this by now, but the president has unilateral authority through his executive powers to cancel 100% of federally owned student loan payments, okay? So he has the power to do that. He is choosing to punt this to Congress and put it on their shoulders to deflect responsibility from the fact that he doesn't actually want to put this policy into effect, okay? That is the reality of this. He doesn't need Congress to act on this. So again, young people see that and they see the betrayal of the promise. Now, again, on student loan payments, federal student loan payments will resume in February after Biden lifts the pause. So not only is he backing off on his promise to cancel student loan payments, but he's also going to have them resume, okay? These were paused under the Trump administration. How the fuck do you get outflanked from the left by Donald fucking Trump, okay? In all honesty, it shouldn't be that surprising. If you know who Joe Biden is and you know his career in the Senate, then you would probably know that he was one of the most vocal supporters of things like the bankruptcy bill and other policies that were put in place that created the student debt crisis that we have right now. So honestly, it wouldn't be that surprising. This is just carrying on in the legacy that he has been building over his entire political career. But again, nonetheless, not surprising why young people are kind of pissed off at Joe Biden. So that's just student loan payments. Let's take a look at more. So poll, this is from a couple years ago, but it stays true till this day. Most young Americans support government-run health insurance programs. So it's not just young Americans. It is in fact the overwhelming majority of all Americans, including by some polls, even a majority of like independents and close to a majority of Republicans support a single payer system when you describe to them what it would result in, okay? We currently have the most expensive and get worse health outcomes of any healthcare system in the entire developed world, okay? People see this, people feel this in their wallets, and they know that we're getting ripped off, okay? That's the type of thing young people want to see as a structural change within this country. They want to see Medicare for all. Joe Biden said Medicare for all was some, progressive wish list item, okay, instead of something that should be considered a human right in healthcare. But he promised a public option, which, when was the last time that you guys heard Joe Biden even mention the public option a single time? He told us that was going to be the centrist compromise that was going to be easy to pass as legislation. He just completely fucking lied about it. And now, even in the middle of a pandemic, he's not even talking about his centrist watered down plan of having a public option, let alone guaranteeing healthcare as a human right to people. Again, as we've just had nearly 1 million Americans die during this pandemic. So I wonder why young people are losing support for Joe Biden. Maybe it's because the two top issues for them, healthcare and student loans, he's completely abandoned them on. And again, this is coming from a guy who, like a couple years ago, was out there saying he had no sympathy for young people. Okay, so again, why the fuck would you think young people would like you? But just on the $15 minimum wage, this was another battle that we saw Joe Biden completely fold on. Biden says $15 minimum wage won't survive the COVID relief talks, promises to push for pay hike later. Okay, when is that later coming? Because this was all the way back in February of 2021. Have they even talked about the $15 minimum wage since then? Don't think so. Again, this wasn't the $15 minimum wage won't survive the COVID relief talks. They folded to the Senate parliamentarian, okay? A person who is in an appointed position, an unelected bureaucrat who has no actual power, who Republicans have fired throughout history to pass through some of the most unpopular legislation in history, okay? So you can fire the Senate parliamentarian, you can remove that barrier and just shove through the $15 minimum wage, which is again, not only supported by the overwhelming majority of young people, but also the overwhelming majority of the American people. And instead, Biden chooses to fold to the advice of an unelected bureaucrat in the Senate parliamentarian. So again, I wonder why young people are not too fond of Joe Biden here. Again, on just another issue, not too surprising, Joe Biden, one of the authors of the '94 crime bill, a guy who has been a fervent supporter for the war on drugs his entire career. Biden remains opposed to marijuana legislation. White House says minutes after senators unveil new marijuana bill. So again, just one of those issues. Biden could do this through executive order. He doesn't even necessarily need Congress. He could declassify marijuana as a scheduled drug, and he could also pardon all nonviolent drug offenders. That's something that would give you an immediate boost among young voters. He's not willing to do it. Again, stuck in the past. Now, just in a broader sense, those are just some of the major issues that young people care about that Joe Biden could have or could still take action on, that he is absolutely refusing to, and in many cases, not even just refusing to, but actively fighting against what young people want him to be doing. But just in a broader sense, let's look at the trend of where his approval rating started to tick down and where it was at its maximum. Well, you look here, okay, the highest point on this entire graph that I was able to find was about here at 55.1% as an average for his approval. So 55.1%. That came, if you look at the date down there at the bottom of the screen, that came on March 22nd, 2021. Now, let's just do a little bit of remembering here what was happening around late March, okay? Here's an article from March 11th, 2021, okay? President Biden signs $1.9 trillion COVID-19 relief bill with $1,400 stimulus checks into law. Okay, so basically, he signed this law on March 11th and giving out $1,400 stimulus checks to Americans, and what do you know? His approval rating was at its maximum point throughout his entire presidency 10 days later. Okay, so listen, in the broader picture, what I'm trying to get you guys to understand is, first of all, don't listen to corporate media ghouls who are trying to go out here and convince you that somehow Joe Biden has moved too far to the left and that's why his approval is tanking. It has absolutely nothing to do with that. If anything, it's because he hasn't moved to the left enough. It's because he's not even following through on the watered down so-called centrist compromises that he ran on. And guess what? Young people are not stupid, okay? We understand this process. We understand the corruption that exists within DC, and we see Joe Biden not even willing willing to go out there and fight for the bare minimum of his own agenda. Okay, so when you back off the promises of material relief that you told people you were going to deliver on, whether it's $15 minimum wage, a public option, whether it's lowering prescription drug prices that you just get cut out of the Build Back Better Act, or whether it's student loan forgiveness, all of these things, that's material relief to the American people. If you wanted to boost your approval rating, fucking deliver relief. I don't know, maybe do another stimulus check, maybe cancel some student loans, maybe do literally anything within your power that you have at your disposal to actually materially improve people's lives. But Joe Biden is not willing to do that. In fact, he thinks that the solution is to move even further to the right and impose even further austerity measures at a time like this. So it's just completely ridiculous. All of these ghouls have the exact opposite idea compared to what actually needs to be done in terms of saving the Joe Biden administration, if that's even something that they care about doing. But yeah, it is overwhelmingly young people who have been turning against Joe Biden, and young people overwhelmingly want the policies that Joe Biden is not willing to fight for.